Hello again, 201. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the environmental and population topics, and maybe we'll do the culture. We'll see how long it gets. I might cut it off and save that for another time. On Chapter 12, South Asia, the subcontinent, India, and there are some real interesting environmental situations going on there, mainly with water and air pollution from the industrialization and manufacturing that was brought in the post-colonial and in the independence times since 1947. There are mountains in the north, some of the largest mountains that we talked about in Central Asia, and that's the other end of Central Asia. Then those mountain ranges is India. There are islands in the south, there's peninsular India, and the lowlands of the river systems. And Bangladesh has faced many problems because of its population. Most people have crowded into the Ganges River, which is a sacred river in the Hindu religion, and it's the longest in South Asia. Millions of people live in very low-lying areas that are subject to floods when the seasonal monsoons come in each year, and it's good to help flood the rice fields, but if it's too much, there is serious death and homelessness that goes on, such as from the 1998 flood, where 22 million Bangladeshis were without homes. Also, this area is also deforested. We've talked about that before. This area also has this problem. And we know what happens when the trees are removed. Eventually the soil runs off from the rain, which they get every year. And in most places, the tree cover has vanished because of human activities. And this place has been deforested for thousands of years. In the far north, there are still forests, also in the southwest, and some in the East Central Asia region. Because they don't have enough firewood, which is one of the reasons why they're also cutting trees, they burn dung, which is in abundance because of the sacredness of the cow to the Hindu faith. So they use that. Wildlife has been going extinct. What? Elephants, tigers, and lions. Because they interfere with agriculture, especially elephants. They create damage to the crops. Tigers are a carnivorous animal. They go after livestock, and then government agents are forced to kill the animal. Also, because elephants have tusks of ivory, which in East Asia is a very cherished item. Population. I don't know if this has happened yet, but it's statistically supposed to happen. 1.6 billion people live in South Asia, and it's going to pass East Asia as the world's most populous region any year now. They're still second as of the last time I taught this course. And this fertility rate has gone down from what it was in the 1960s, but it's still almost 3, and in Uttar Pradesh it's still over 4, which means that cancels out some of the zero growth or replacement growth. If you remember, that's a key geographic term when talking about population. Replacement is a mother and a father replacing themselves, a boy and a girl. That's replacement, and that keeps population level. And in some of these regions, it's still much higher than that. And generally speaking, and we've seen this in other regions as well, higher literacy usually equals lower fertility. And women are gaining economic power in South Asia because they have excellent education services now in this region of the world. But there's also the preference for male children. We're going to see that when we come to other parts of Asia, which complicates family planning. And if they determine the sex of the child before birth, that results in higher abortion rates in India. And there are all kinds of clinics throughout the region. Pakistan and Bangladesh have huge populations for their size. This statistic blows my mind. Bangladesh has almost half the population of the United States, and it's packed into an area the size of Wisconsin. That is dense population, ladies and gentlemen. And the highest population densities are found in the agricultural areas of fertile soil, usually in those river valley areas of the Ganges and other parts of South Asia. Nepal, Kashmir have big population clusters. Here are some of the other areas where people go to try to escape the dense population of Bangladesh to these Indian states. They will sometimes migrate to Nepal. They will go to the lowlands near the Indian border. And there's also been some migration from war-torn areas. The Buddhists were fighting on Sri Lanka about 10-15 years ago. That's largely calmed down. And the Kashmir has always been an area of problem between Pakistan and India. Believe it or not, the region is still predominantly rural, but cities are a major part of the landscape, and the statistics of the population of these cities is just unbelievable. They have 35 cities with over 1 million residents. Mumbai, as of 2016, was the largest in India. And there are problems because of this. And you see them listed right here. Poverty, water shortages, air pollution, sewage. And in this region, they call their squatter settlements bastis. And we've talked about that before. The ghetto, the barrio, the favela, all the same names, different names for the same idea of a squatter settlement. Delhi was the former Muslim capital. New Delhi is a planned city in the European or British style. And they have some bad air pollution there, probably because they're burning leaded gas. Kolkata has a legendary homeless population that varies on a nightly basis. Electric power problems, they get flooding there as well, and there's a big Hindu-Muslim rivalry. More on that in a moment. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh. There's 11 million people there, and there's a huge cheap labor supply there, and that makes it attractive to textile and sporting goods manufacturers. Karachi used to be the capital of Pakistan, and today it's home to 13 million people. It's the largest urban area, and there's a lot of commercial activities going on in Karachi. But they have ethnic and political tensions between Sindhis, the indigenous population that was there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the Muhajirs, Indian Muslims. They fight it out. There's problems between Sunnis and Shiite Muslims, and you add the Pashtuns in from Afghanistan, and you've got quite the mix in this city. Islamabad was a planned or forward capital. This is a geographic term from World Regional Geography. A forward capital is something planned, and they wanted this to be the symbol of the religious foundation of Pakistan, which, when it was partitioned after the British left in 1947, that's when Pakistan was formed. And it is near the disputed territory, deliberately, of Kashmir. And they've had wars with India 2 or 3 times since 1947. The culture, there is religious and political strife between Hindus and Muslims. That overlies everything else that goes on culturally. There is Hindu nationalism in this. Bharatiya Janata Party is a Hindu nationalist, extreme nationalist group, and they are usually opposed by Islamic fundamentalist groups. Secular intellectuals, international business people, all of these different groups are trying to control the political process. And the government has attempted to mediate this, but it gets accused of bias towards Islamists and with these anti-blasphemy laws. And you got to remember, Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, as we'll see in a few moments. This is an ancient civilization. The Indus Valley civilization was there 5,000 years before the Common Era in what is today Pakistan. And it disappears. They don't know a lot other than they've found evidence of its existence. What probably happened was the irrigation made the land salty after a while and they couldn't grow any crops. So they left and they migrated elsewhere. Historians and anthropologists are tending to move in that direction today for explanations of what happens to ancient peoples. Again, Hindus believe in multiple gods. It is a polytheistic faith. And interestingly enough, they derive from a single deity, so that's rather interesting. And this became the unifying force after the Buddha forced the Brahmins to make changes in the Hindu faith, to make it more of a little bit more friendly, user-friendly to those that were in the lower castes. And there's still a caste system today, but it's not really legal as it was 100 years ago. And there still are hereditary groups. And again, Buddha was a big reason for the change in the Hindu or the Brahmin faith. And there are the tenets of Buddhism. Even though it's not really a major religion anymore in India, it had a big influence. And it's big in Japan, as we'll see. The Buddha believed that life was suffering, caused by desire. So, to end suffering, end desire. And this is accomplished through the Eightfold Path, which will lead you to nirvana, and the end of suffering, the perfect state of existence. Sri Lanka has many Buddhists, as does the Himalayan mountain areas, or the Lamaist areas, who follow the Dalai Lama in Tibet. Islam came in much later, after the 700 Common Era, when all the big Islamic empires were on the march, the most famous of which in South Asia were the Mughals. They dominated the subcontinent in the 16th and 17th centuries, and they converted a lot of lower castes because they were getting rid of, they wanted to be out of that rigidity. Islam is a monotheistic faith. And this was a way of the Dalits to escape their situation. Here are the main groups in Hinduism. The Brahmins at the top, the warrior class, the Vaishyas. The majority are the Sudras, or agriculturalists, or craft occupations. And then outside of the caste system are the Dalits, or the untouchables. And this is technically, untouchability is technically illegal today. And some of the other faiths. Again, Hinduism is big in India, less than 1% in Pakistan. Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have minority Hindu populations. And there is the overwhelming faith of Pakistan and Bangladesh is Islam, 400 million members, as opposed to 500-600 million Hindus. And there are charts on this in the textbook if you're interested in the exact numbers. But there's still 150 million Muslims in India. I'm sure that that's still a fairly accurate number today. Other religious groups, the Sikhs, they were attempting to blend both Hindu and Islamic tenets. They are located mainly in the Punjab. It's about 60% of the population there. You might see or have seen some of these famous men. They wear the turbans because that's where all their hair is. And the Sikhs are well known for being outstanding soldiers and bodyguards, and they're sought for that reason. Theravada Buddhism is the main religion of Sri Lanka, and as I mentioned in Tibet, it's Lamaist Buddhism. They are the followers of the Dalai Lama. The Jains are forbidden to kill living creatures. They wear gauze masks because we don't want to inhale and kill any insects. An even more ancient religion are the Zoroastrians, who believe that life is the struggle between the forces of good and the forces of evil. And there are some Christians also, located mostly in Kerala. a former Portuguese colony near Goa, and there are about 3.8 million Christians. Language. Hindi is the most widely spoken language. 500 million speakers. Second most widely spoken language in the world because of the population. Bengali is the second most widely spoken. That's the national language of Bangladesh, which is why they broke away from the other part of Pakistan. They did not want to speak Urdu or Punjabi. They speak Bengali in what was East Pakistan, today Bangladesh. They changed in the 1970s. And other Dravidian-based languages in the south, there you have Tamil is another long one. Sinhalese. And what do these people want to do to try to unify people by language? Some people in as far south of the subcontinent, they advocate that English be used as a neutral national language, or the lingua franca, the language of business or of trade or of day-to-day work, because 33% of the population knows this. It's part of the legacy of the colonial times with the British, but it might be a way of trying to unify the entire South Asian region, which is huge in terms of population and its potential for world commerce and what impact it can make economically. And we'll move into those last two areas of economics and geopolitics in the next video. And also, call center people watch, one more thing, they watch call center employees, they want them to watch popular TV shows from the West so they can learn pronunciation and slang. Interesting.